Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
What's going on, people? You're listening to the Afternoon Praise, and this is Triumph Tuesday. Yes, we made it to Tuesday, and I hope that you finished Monday strong. I hope that you was like, it's Monday, but I have a goal, I have a mission, and I'm going to finish it strong. So I celebrate you today for doing that, and I celebrate you today for making it to Tuesday. And I know. Sometimes, we're not as excited to see the next day because we have problems, issues, we have things on our shoulders, but that's all right. All right. That's okay. But I'm here to help people reach their defined level of success. I'm here to help you discover and develop your gifts. This is not just inspiration, people. This is alignment. This is structure. This is execution. Yesterday, guess what? We dealt with definition. We established that your gifts need clarity before it needs exposure. But today, we take the next step because clarity without strategy still leaves you stuck. This week right here, we are focused on engineering the environment where your gift can function at a higher level. Every show this week, that's what we're doing. We are engineering your environment so that your gift can function at a higher level. And today we are talking about strategy for the environment, because here's the truth. Emotion can get you started, but it cannot sustain what you build. And the reality is this: if your movement is based on how you feel, your results will always be inconsistent. So today, we're not talking about motivation. We're talking about how to move when you don't feel like it. Let's look at Proverbs 24, verse 3 and 4. It says, "Through wisdom is an house builded, and by understanding it is established. And by knowledge shall the chambers be filled with all precious and pleasant riches." What that mean? I'm glad you asked. Wisdom builds, understanding stabilizes, and knowledge fills. So today, we're not just talking about starting something. We're talking about building something that holds under pressure. And you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. This is Triumph Tuesday, and I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Join us on this heavenly journey, one song at a time, Wave Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown. Let's talk about emotion is not a strategy. It's not, people. Emotion is powerful, but it's not reliable. You can feel locked in today and disconnected tomorrow. And research shows emotional reaction don't just shift the mood, they reduce your ability to think clearly by up to 20 to 30% of hours. That means one emotional moment can cost you multiple hours of execution. And here's what makes this dangerous. Most people don't even realize they are building off emotions. They say, "I just wasn't feeling it today." But high-level performers don't ask how they feel. They ask, what does the system require? And they execute regardless of how they feel. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
You're riding the waves of faith and grace on Wave Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise, and this is Triumph Tuesday. Today we are talking about wisdom builds that what emotions cannot sustain. If your system doesn't decide, guess what does? Your emotions will. If you don't have a system, your mood becomes your strategy. And when your mood leads, your results follow instability. Research shows decisions inconsistencies can reach 55% variance with the same information. That means two different versions of you will make two different decisions. So the question is, which version of you is building your future? The emotional version or the structured version? Because only one of them produces consistency. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wave Radio.
How you doing today on this Tuesday, this beautiful Triumph Tuesday? I know. You don't feel like celebrating. You be like, he's too jolly. He's too this. Yes, I'm going to be that, because guess what? Somebody got to hold your arms up. You remember when Moses was in the war? They had to hold his arms up. So every time his arms fell down, they was losing the war. But every time they was lifting his arms up, they won. They was going in victory. So this show right here, I'm lifting you up so that you can operate and move in victory. All right. Let's talk about wisdom is a system, not a moment. See, Solomon didn't just have wisdom. He applied it consistently. That means it wasn't emotional. It was structured. It showed up in how he judged difficult situations, how he handled disputes, how he governed people. See, let's look at this story right here. I know a lot of y'all remember. Y'all read the Bible. Y'all remember when the two women came before Solomon, both claiming to be the mother of the same child. That was not a casual moment. That wasn't a casual moment. See, one of the mothers rolled over on their child and she killed her child. And she took the child that was living, the other woman's child. So these two women came before Solomon, both claiming the child that was alive to be his mother. That was not a casual moment. That was pressure for Solomon. See, lives were on the line. Emotions was high. Confusion was present. And instead of reacting emotionally, Solomon made a strategic decision that revealed the truth. He didn't guess. He designed a response that exposed reality. That's wisdom under pressure. He said, this is what I would do. I would take the child and split it down the middle and give you half and give the other person half. And the true child's mother was like, no, I'd rather for that child to live than to die. And Solomon knew the response that he was going to get. And that's why he strategically did that, gave that answer and gave the directions that he gave to the women. So that's wisdom under pressure. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wave Radio.
What's going on, people? Hey, I just want to say thank you for tuning in and listening to the Afternoon Praise. Let's talk about strategy is how you think daily. Strategy is not something you visit. It's something you live in. It becomes your decisions, your priorities, your filters. Without strategies, everything competes for your attention. And attention is currency. Where your attention goes, your life follows. So if your attention is scattered, so will you be also. You will be scattered. Put a strategy together, people. Put it together. Hey, you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wave Radio.
Hey, you just tuned in to the Afternoon Praise. If you miss any of our shows, any of these shows, my shows, you can go to Wave Radio and you can listen to the replay, the entire show minus the music, or you can go to my YouTube channel, which is the Business Point Guard. You'll see my face there, Demetrius L. Brown. But let's talk about most people don't have a knowledge problem. I'm going to say that again. Most people don't have a knowledge problem. Most people know what to do, but they don't do it consistently. And research shows 67% of strategies fail due to poor execution. That means it's not knowledge, it's structure. That's why you can hear a message, agree with it, and still not apply it. Because agreement is not execution. And without a system, execution becomes optional. And here's the reality most people avoid. You don't need another video. You don't need another message. You don't need another confirmation. You need a system that forces you to act. Because if actions is optional, progress will be inconsistent. And inconsistency will always limit your results. And you're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wave Radio.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. Where you tuned in from? Let us know where you are listening from. I see right now we have people online from Finland, Germany. We have people online from North Carolina. What's up, NC? We have people online from VA. We have people online from New York. Hey, I appreciate you all listening, but we want to know where you are listening from. So send us a shout out and say, hey, Wave Radio, my name is such and such, and I'm listening from such and such. All right, we want to hear from you. Let's talk about small decisions build big outcomes. And I talked about this briefly yesterday. Your life is built on small decisions, not big moments. Small, repeated actions create massive results over time. That means what you do when nobody is watching matters. What you repeat matters more. Consistency compounds, and inconsistency does too. You don't wake up one day successful. You wake up into what you've been building. Every decision is a vote. Every action is a direction. So the question is, are your daily decisions aligned with where you say you are going? Or are they just responding to how you feel? Let me ask that again. Are your daily decisions aligned with where you say you are going? Not where nobody else say you're going, but where you say you're going. Or are they just responding to how you feel? You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Bringing the sounds of heaven 24/7, Wave Radio.
You're tuned in here to Wave Radio, and you are listening to the Afternoon Praise. You can catch the show live Monday through Friday from 2 to 6 p.m. here on Wave Radio. And after that, you can catch the replays on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast, you can catch the replay. Again, I thank you for listening to the show and being part of this audience. Let's talk about high performers use frameworks. See, top performers don't guess. They use frameworks. They rely on systems that guide their decisions because frameworks remove pressure. They reduce emotional interference. They give you a standard to follow, even when you don't feel like it. And this is what separates high-level people from average performers. Average performers decide in the moment. High performers decide in advance. They already know what they will do, what they won't do, what matters most. So when pressure comes, they don't panic, they execute. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
What's going on, good people? Hey, thank you for tuning in. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise, and we're talking about wisdom builds what emotions cannot sustain on this Triumph Tuesday. Let's talk about you must remove decision friction. See, every unnecessary decision drains your energy. So high performers simplify their lives. They don't simplify because they can't handle complexity. They simplify so that they can focus on high volume decisions. Remember, we talked about this yesterday. Because every time you waste energy deciding something small, you lose capacity for something big. That's why leaders wear the same type of clothes, follow structured routines, operate on set schedules. Not because they lack creativity, but because they protect their mental energy. You have to protect your mind, people. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You just tuned in to the Afternoon Praise here on this Triumph Tuesday. Let's talk about execution gap. The execution gap is real, people. There's a gap between knowing and doing. That's the gap I'm talking about. And most people live in it. They start strong, they fade quickly. They start strong and they fade quickly. Let's look at Matthew 26:39. Oh, my Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as thou wilt. That was a real moment. That was when Jesus was in the Garden of Gethsemane. When he was emotional, he was very emotional. It said his tears were blood. But Jesus said, not my will, but thy will. He didn't lead on emotions from emotions. I'm not saying he didn't feel, he did. That was a real moment. That was pressure. That was emotion. That was weight. But Jesus didn't let emotions override assignment. Jesus aligned with purpose over feelings. This is the greatest example of decisions over emotions ever. This is what saved our lives. And here's what made that moment powerful. He didn't know how he felt. He acknowledged it, but he didn't follow it. You can feel it without following it. We're not saying don't acknowledge how you feel at the moment or in that season. You have to acknowledge it. You have to deal with the truth, but you don't have to follow what you feel. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise here on Wave Radio. I need for you to follow us on all social media platforms. Go to waveradio.com. That's WAYVVE radio.com. And I need you to follow us on all social media platforms. And don't just follow us, share. Share with your family, with your friends, because we know that this is a gift that will bless them. From the music, from the shows, I'm telling you, you will bless them. But let's talk about systems close the gap. Systems remove hesitation. They tell you what to do next. They eliminate the need to negotiate with yourself, because once something is decided in advance, execution becomes automatic. And when execution becomes automatic, you remove excuses, you remove delays, you remove emotional interference. Now, it's not, should I do this? It becomes, this is what I do. Put your systems in place, people. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown. Let's talk about stop building based on feelings. If your work is based on how you feel, your results will be unstable. Feelings fluctuate, structure don't. And anything built on fluctuation will eventually collapse, because feelings are temporary, but systems are repeatable. And this is where a lot of people lose momentum. They wait to feel ready. They wait to feel motivated. They wait to feel confident. But high-level performers don't wait for alignment in their emotions. They move based on alignment in their decisions. Because if you only move when you feel good, you will stop when things get difficult. And anything that stops under pressure was never built to last. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown. Let's talk about strategy protects your future. And if you just tuned in to show today, the show today is Wisdom Builds What Emotions Cannot Sustain. And without strategy, you say yes to everything, and that creates misalignment. Strategy protects your time, your energy, and your assignment. And every time you say yes to something misaligned, you are saying no to something that actually mattered. And that's the cost people don't see. And I know if you listened to the show yesterday, you probably say, man, you said that yesterday. Yes, I'm drilling down on that. Because most people measure what they gain, but they don't measure what they delay. Every misaligned decision pushes your real assignment further back. Let me say that again. Every misaligned decision pushes your real assignment further back. So strategy becomes protection. It protects your focus, your direction, your long-term results. Because not everything deserves your attention. And if everything gets your attention, nothing gets built. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise, and this is Triumph Tuesday. You remember yesterday we talked about complexity. See, complexity kills growth. Complexity slows everything down. High performers simplify because clarity and simplicity create speed. And more complicated your system is, the harder it is to execute consistently. And inconsistency is the real problem. Not lack of effort, not lack of opportunity, but lack of repeatable execution. So sometimes growth is not about adding more, it's about removing what doesn't belong. Because when your systems are simple, execution becomes natural. And when execution becomes natural, results become predictable. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. Hey. Man, I thank you for joining us. You know, this show right here is a system. You know, I'm not just educating you, giving you knowledge. I am giving you tools to execute. And I hope that you take these tools that the Afternoon Praise are giving you to build, to execute. And guess what, y'all? Starting next week, yes, I relaunched the podcast, Understanding the Play. So everything you get here, you will get triple on the podcast. Because again, I know I can't put everything here on the show, and you don't want to listen to everything here on the show. So the podcast will launch next week with all the week built together. So if you notice, the weeks are built off of themes. So we will have the shows, and we will have the one podcast that will talk about the whole thing. All right. And that's where I build my engine. And I want to help you. Let's talk about build an engine, not a job. If everything depends on you, you build a job, not a system. Systems create independence. They allow results to happen even when you're not present. And this is where most people get stuck. They're working hard, but there's still no system. So when they stop, everything stops. That's not growth, that's dependency. Real growth happens when what you build can function without you being involved in every step. That's when you move from effort to design. And people, I'm telling you, stop knocking AI. AI is your friend, it's your tool. See, a lot of people can't afford to hire people. A lot of people can't afford, but you can afford $30, $40 or $60 a month to employ AI to help you put systems in place so that you're not doing all the work. It's okay to take your work to put in AI to clean it up. It's okay to allow AI to help you make your pictures until you get to a point to build a team. And stop letting people on social media say, oh man, they use ChatGPT. Oh, they use that. Yeah, I did use it. You sitting there complaining, I'm building a system. So what's your point? Stop listening to people and start listening to yourself and use AI to build your systems. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. This is Triumph Tuesday, and we're talking about wisdom builds what emotions cannot sustain. Systems create sustainability. Motivation can get you started, but systems carry you the long term. Systems create consistency, rhythm, repeatable success. That's how you build something that lasts, because sustainability is not built on intensity. It's built on consistency. Anybody can go hard for a day. Anybody can go hard for a week, but very few people build something that works every day, because that requires structure. That requires discipline. That requires decisions that don't change when emotions do. And when your system is strong, you don't have to force results. Results become a byproduct of how you operate. You're listening to the Afternoon Praise. I'm your host, Demetrius L. Brown.
Catch the wave. You're listening to Wave Radio, your home for uplifting gospel music.
Man, my time is up. It's been great. It's been lovely on this Triumph Tuesday. I hope, and I pray that you actually took the knowledge that was presented today. And again, if you miss any part of this show, you can go back on my YouTube channel, The Business Point Guard, and listen to this show entirely without the music. Because again, my job is to plant in water. That's all it is. I don't handle the increase. God handle the increase. And you must have enough faith and belief that God is going to do what he says going to do. And you must understand your purpose and be in his word so that you can know what he said he is going to do or what he is doing. But let me leave you with this. Proverbs 24, verse 3 and 4. Through wisdom is an house builded, and by understanding it is established, and by knowledge shall the chambers be filled with all precious and pleasant riches. This is structure. Wisdom builds, understanding stabilizes, knowledge fills. So when pressure comes, when emotions arise, when things don't feel right, you don't stop, you don't guess, you don't react, you follow what's already been built. Because in the end, you don't rise to the level of your feelings, you fall to the level of your systems. And if your system is strong, your outcome becomes predictable. And predictability outcomes create powerful seasons. Because outcomes determines the season and system determines the outcome. So if you want a different season, you don't start with emotions. You start with structure. You start with wisdom. You start with decisions that don't change when your feelings do. Because the people who win consistently are not the most motivated. They are the most structured. And when your structure is right, your results stop being a surprise. They become a pattern. And when results become a pattern, your life changes on purpose. Wisdom builds what emotions cannot sustain. Hey, I thank you for joining me today on this Triumph Tuesday. I will catch you tomorrow on Build a Brand Wednesday. I love you. I'm out of here. Peace.
Stay tuned and stay blessed here on Wave Radio.